Hi guys, and welcome back to F the Noise with your host Lauren Fiorenza Gill. This is episode 5, guys. If you've made it this far and you've listened to all of the episodes, I love you so much. If you do listen to any of the podcasts or watch them, don't forget to rate the podcast and click that little subscribe follow button on YouTube or Spotify, which will keep you up to date with all the updates, the new podcast launches, and any other new features that I drop on Spotify. As you can probably hear, my voice is a little bit raspy today. That is because I've just had this cold that I cannot kick. And I know this is a safe space to talk to you all about it because, as we know, when you go through chemo and cancer, our immune systems get battered. I don't know if there's something in the air or if there's a virus going around, but I have been ill for the past week and a half and I cannot shift this cold. So if you hear the kind of like soothing low voice, that's me because I'm full of cold. So as you can probably tell by the name of this title, this podcast today is really about finding love. So finding love before you start chemo, how to navigate the world of dating. And I'm going to share my stories with you guys about how I found love during cancer. I hear you saying, is it possible to find love when you have just been diagnosed with cancer? Is it possible to maintain relationships when you're undergoing chemo? And the answer is yes. I found my current 6-year relationship before I was diagnosed with cancer. Now, when I say before, I mean I think a month before I was diagnosed with cancer. So we were still in the dating phase. There wasn't any sort of discussions about long-term really, but we both knew that we kind of were into each other. So it's that really early stage of dating someone. And little did they know that a month later, they'd probably be dating someone that's just been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, which is crazy to think about it from my point of view, from being the person that was diagnosed with cancer, but to be the person that kind of has that life change in a person that you just met happen so early on in a relationship. I literally can't imagine what that is like. So that will happen where I bring my boyfriend Danny onto a podcast and we'll talk about his point of view if he's up for it. But for now, we're just going to share my side of the story and how weird it was to date someone and then be told you got stage 4 cancer and how to navigate that relationship and maintain it. As mentioned in the previous podcast, I kind of had an indication that something wasn't right. I kind of knew, I was going for these blood tests. I kind of knew that my body was getting a bit tired. I started developing this really strong cough probably 2-3 months before I was diagnosed with cancer. So I knew in myself that my body was reacting to something, but I didn't know it was cancer at the time. So as a reaction to that, I kind of cut back alcohol because that was my only symptom to tell me that something was wrong. It didn't make me feel good. I was advised by doctors just to come off it and see if symptoms still carried on without me drinking alcohol. So I wasn't really drinking. I was really focused on finding out what it was once I knew something was quite wrong. So that was my main priority, work, health. That was it. That's all I was focused on. And I just remember I'd kind of had this stint of not drinking alcohol probably for a month, which was at the time quite a long time for me to go, without drinking alcohol, socializing with friends. And I remember saying to my housemate, let's just go to a gig. We used to go to gigs. That was our form of bonding. And I was like, I just want to go to a gig. We used to pick random gigs. At the time we were living in Nottingham. So Rock City was our closest venue. And that's where we just went for gigs. Whenever we felt like it, catching new bands in town, just having a girls' night out. It was just the best vibe. And I'm a massive music lover. So that to me was just so amazing to find a housemate who loved that. I was really fed up of just putting my life on pause and just letting doctors come into my life and take over with blood tests, scans. And I just needed to let some steam off. And I just remember I said to my housemate, let's go to Rock City and see what's on. So I got changed, got glammed up, and I wasn't planning on drinking. But then, I don't know, I think it was just all the frustration that was pent up of just not knowing what was going on and having such a long time without alcohol, but still the cough being present, that I just felt like I needed to just have a night off. And I did. We were drinking. I think after my second drink, I was such a lightweight because I hadn't drank for so long. So I was having my ciders, I remember. The band came on. And I just remember being okay, I'm feeling a little tipsy. I'm feeling a little carefree. I feel just very relaxed versus how I'd been feeling for the past month and a half of just tense, stressed, agitated, frustrated. My housemate was there. She was having a good time. And then this main band came on stage and I was like, oh, cool. We basically booked tickets that day or the day before. And they were a rock band. I was like, it's really cool. Let's go. And so basically we were watching the band, and I was kind of in that like tipsy phase where you're just like, yeah, you're just loving the music and stuff. I just remember seeing this guitar player, and he was like on the other side of the stage. And I love like any music, to be honest. There's certain musics that I don't, but like I love rock, I love jazz, I love opera. I just really appreciate like the art that comes with music as well. And so I just remember seeing this guitar player, and he did like some riffs and stuff, and I was like, oh, that sounds really good. And I remember like nudging my housemate, like, he's really good, isn't he? He's like, yeah, really, really good. And she's like, yeah, he's really good. And then I remember after the gig, my housemate needed to get home, but I wanted to stay out because I was like, I just want to like continue partying, really. And I bumped into someone who I knew from, I think, in like another band. They were like, oh, do you want to come backstage and see the band? And I was like, yeah, definitely. So went backstage, and then I saw this like really tall guy with this like massive black fur coat and all the band. And I was just like probably like 5 drinks down, 6 drinks down by then. I just remember seeing him and being like, oh, that's that guitar player. I'm giggling because Danny's literally sat in the lounge next to me right now, who is my boyfriend. But who said hi first? Was it you or me? Probably me. Okay. So I went up to him and I was like, introduced myself, and then he kind of said hi, and then that was it really, because all of his family were there and there were so many people wanting to take photos, and then that was it. And I was like, okay, cool. So then the days go on, and then I remember like DMing and being like, hey, like, amazing show or something like that, and then he replied, and I was like, oh. And then it goes to like a follow, and I was like, oh, okay, we're following each other now. And then the DMs just start turning into paragraphs, and we start sending each other music on the daily, like different songs, like, you got to check this out. And then I think it might have been me or Danny, I can't remember who said, was it you or me who said, should we take it to WhatsApp? This is my number. It was Danny. He's pointing at himself. Danny said, should we take it to WhatsApp? This is like getting quite long on here. It's easier for me to see all those fan girls in the DMs. I can't find your message. There's too many fangirls in my DMs. You need to move to WhatsApp. And yeah, and then I just remember like hitting it off. And this was, I think this is like November, December of the year before I got diagnosed with cancer. We both really obviously like adore music. So that was like a definite like, you know, relatability point, which was really cool. But I do remember like literally at the time, like not being like, I wasn't looking for like a long-term relationship. Like my genuine life, like I said, was just solely focused on this health issue. To be honest, I didn't know how to approach the subject of, I'm going through all these health tests, I don't really know what's going on, something's happening, my bloods are really abnormal, I'm going in for constant scans, this is my life. Like, I don't want to bombard someone that I just started dating, who I've just met, with all of that. So that was my first kind of initial, I don't know how to tell him, but I kind of do, because I can't really be drinking on dates with him because I'm trying to avoid alcohol apart from that one night. And then I just remember basically he was living in London, I was living in Nottingham. I was working for this company where every Friday I'd be required to go down to London. And we started dating every kind of like Friday really when I could go down, and then the next day we'd have breakfast and I'd probably just go back to Nottingham, and that was it really. But I still didn't bring up the kind of fact about, I guess, the severity of my health at that time. A, I didn't want to scare him away, and B, I didn't really have answers to what was going on, so there's no point in my head to do that. But I did say, you know, I remember on the first day I was like, oh, I'm not really drinking, I don't really know what's going on, trying to like avoid alcohol to see if we can rule anything out. It's just dead chill. And what I really loved about this like initial relationship is it wasn't focused around my health, and it wasn't focused around like being ill. It was just focused about getting to know me for who I am, with the health aside. And for me to have conversations with someone who doesn't really know me, but like who's only interested in knowing about me, and not feeling like the health situation is defining who I am, which is how I felt about myself at the time, was so refreshing. It was so nice just to have like this new guy I was dating who just wanted to find out about me and not the health issues and not the illness. And it's like about my life, what I like, and vice versa. And it just felt like an escape. Like every time I go down to London every Friday for a date, I was so looking forward to it, because my whole life back in Nottingham was blood tests, scans, all of this, like doctor conversations. And it was just so nice to get that escape and just start dating someone who didn't know all of that baggage behind. So after meeting quite a lot of times in London, texting every single day, finding out about each other's lives, our family, as you do when you start dating. We definitely like realized that we're becoming closer and more interested in each other, and like more interested in giving our time to each other, which was really nice. But the more we were getting closer, the more closer I was to finding out about having cancer, which is just the most ironic pairing ever, but it's true, and that's how it happened. And I just remember, you know, we'd only been dating for like, I don't know, 2 months maybe, 2.5 months. I remember there was one time in like March, I think it was. So I remember it was like a Friday night. It was really exciting. Danny was going to come to mine for the first time in the evening. But in that day, I had a scan to tell me if I had cancer or not. And I remember, if you've listened to episode 1, you'll probably know this, but I remember going in for the scan, and then before I could go in for the scan, which was like the be all and end all of if I have cancer or not, I get a phone call from a fertility clinic, and they basically call me up and they're saying you need to come in and freeze your eggs. And I was like, oh, okay, why is that? And they're like, because you've got stage 4 cancer and it's urgent, it's a priority. And that's the exact day that Danny was going to come to mine that evening for the first time. And I was just remember feeling it so like confused. And if you want to hear more about the kind of how I was told, all of the diagnosis, that's in episode 1. So if you haven't listened, go back, because I go into quite a lot of detail. But I just remember feeling like, oh my God, like really deflated and like panicked. And then before I knew it, I was in that room where I was getting the dye in me to do that final scan, even though they knew I had cancer. I just remember sitting, waiting for the ink to go in my skin, ready for the scan. And I just remember sitting there thinking, God, I've got an hour to kill. I had my phone. I'd just been told I got cancer through an accidental phone call that shouldn't have happened from a fertility clinic. And I've got this guy that I'm dating who's going to come tonight. And how am I going to tell him? And I just thought the best way to do it, I've got an hour to spend, is just to have a conversation with him texting. And I just basically sent him a text like, hey, I'm so excited to see you tonight, but also I have something to tell you. I've just been told that I've got cancer and it's stage 4. And I know you're meant to be coming over tonight for our first like date night. And I know that this relationship is quite new. I've only met you for like 2.5 months, but I've loved every minute of it. But I have been told that I've got cancer and I am actually going to have to undergo chemotherapy. And so I basically just said to him the ultimatum question of, I don't know why I'm crying. The ultimate. It's okay. One sec. And I basically just said to him, and I remember just texting him to say, it's okay if you don't want to join me on this journey, because I don't know what's going to happen to me going through this cancer journey. But I do really like you, and I totally understand if you need a get out free card. And this is my opportunity to say, I completely understand if this is too much for you too soon. It's a lot for me as well, but I do really like you, and you know, I don't want to put any pressure on you. And if this is too much, I totally understand if you can't continue dating me and see where this goes. And if you don't want to come over tonight, is what I said. And he basically responded with this like really like comforting message. And he came over that night, and I was just like, oh my God, this guy is literally coming over. And I've just told him the girl that he's just recently been dating has got stage 4 cancer. I've just found out, and you still want to come over and hang out with me. And then I think that's when I thought, oh my God, like that's making me like him even more. And I hope he doesn't run away. And he didn't. And then he basically stuck by me, and it was amazing. And I felt like, you know, he had my back throughout the most unpredictable time that you could ever meet someone. Not only because everything in life was unpredictable for me, like every hour is a new experience, literally, when you're having cancer. But like he went through it with me, and he was very calm. He would like talk about other things if I didn't want to talk about it. If I wanted to talk about it, he'd like listen. And it was just a very organic situation. And to be honest, I really feel like that part in our life made us very strong very quick, because it really is that quick split decision of, hey, this girl that you've just been dating for 2 months has just found out she's got stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. Do you want to stay with her or not? And like there's 2 ways that could have gone. Like one route is, love the time with you, but it's too much for me, I can't take it on. Bearing in mind he's 6 years younger than me, so I was 25 when I found out, and he was 19, and he stuck by me like a freaking rock. Like he had my back. He'd like play me like guitar, because obviously he's a guitar player. He'd play me like beautiful like guitar melodies and stuff when I couldn't sleep in hospital at night. He'd send me like beautiful sound like songs to listen to distract me throughout all the chaos. Like, it was just a really beautiful moment in my life where I was going through a very dark time. I'd be in hospital. There's a lot of noise going around. He'd like call me for hours in hospital when I was getting too like upset and distracted. And I remember sometimes I actually couldn't even speak on the phone. And he goes, "Oh, it's okay. I know you're tired. Like, I can just talk to you, or I can call you back." And it was just amazing. Like, I had the physical people in my life, which was my mum, sister, family, and friends. And he was living in London, but he was still so there. And, you know, that's probably why I'm still with him 6 years later on, because he's always been there, and he's always been just absolute, like, strong person in my life that I know I can fall back on. And same for him. We're both going to catch each other through thick and thin. And it was just a beautiful moment. And so that's how I met him. And he decided that he wanted to embark on this crazy wild cancer journey with me. And one of the things that I would say is really important is like communication. So I think from the get-go, if you know certain things in terms of like facts, so if you know that, you know, maybe you're not feeling well, for example, and you're giving alcohol a break, I'd say if you're just starting to date someone and you're kind of noticing symptoms of cancer, or you're going even through chemotherapy at the time, just be communicative with them and just tell them exactly where you're at, exactly how you're feeling. Sometimes I was so tired, like I said, I couldn't even like talk to him on the phone, but I'd text him first and just say, "Hey, look, like, I'm really tired. I've not got much energy, but I still want to talk to you. Can we just WhatsApp?" And I think just being that transparent and that open, and that also, I think, reassuring to the partner who you're with of like, you are still interested and you are, you know, you do want to talk to them, and just being over transparent and over communicative of how you're feeling, how you feel towards them, how they make you feel. And like taking photos as well. Taking photos was a massive thing, and we still do it to this day. I'd take photos of what I'm having for breakfast in the hospital and we'd giggle about it because it didn't look great and stuff like that. Or he'd take photos of when he's touring around the world, and I'd get to see them. And just those kind of like, I'm thinking of you moments is just beautiful. And I think in any relationship, it's so important to keep the communication open and, you know, just communicate about everything, because then no one's left thinking, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? Just tell them, because it's just reassuring. And sometimes that's scary because you don't want to scare someone off. But I'm telling you now, if it's the right person, they can handle it. And if they can't, and if they're struggling to come to terms with what's going on, I'd say from the patient's point of view, so the person who's actually got cancer, ask them how they're feeling and see if you can bring it out of them. And then maybe you can talk to other charities like Macmillan or, you know, Teenage Cancer Trust, because they're also experts in how to navigate relationships and how to open conversations up to make communication stronger. So that's another tip, because not everyone is strong enough to communicate that openly. And so I'd say they're your kind of support systems of where you can lean on to help open up the communication and dialogue between relationships or family or friends. So in terms of our relationship, it had so many different stages of just going into the unknown and not knowing what's going to hit you. And like in terms of a romantic relationship, it's like, how do you navigate what your new normal as a couple dating looks like? Dating with cancer is so strange because it is the complete unknown, not just for me in terms of cancer, but to the guy that I was seeing at the time, who is now my boyfriend. How do you navigate like dating? How do you navigate like romance when you're going through chemo, you're losing your hair, you've got no energy? Sometimes you've got energy to like pick up the phone for a call. Sometimes I can't even pick up a phone because I'm that tired. We basically had to find our new normal in terms of dating. And it's quite nice because when you've got someone that is interested in you and wants to get to know you, you know that you can talk about it. You know, we didn't go out as much in terms of like going to loads of gigs. Late nights wasn't really a good thing for me because my energy would zap. The dating life before I was diagnosed with cancer was going to clubs, eating out, late nights. And then when I was diagnosed with cancer, dating life then took a turn to be like, okay, I can't do late nights anymore. And I don't have enough stamina to do a lot of like the walking around town in central London. So let's get takeouts or cook at home. Let's watch movies. On my good days, where I did have some good days, I would actually go to see him at a gig. So I'd say the first step in terms of navigating what a new dating life looked like for me was, what are we both interested in? What can I actually do with my physical energy, mental energy? How do I feel emotionally? And then we basically then tailored it to be like, okay, movie nights is a safe bet because it's at home. I'm not going to catch anything. I can sleep if I want to, but still hang out with you. And then the second step is kind of appearance changes. So this was more a me thing, obviously, because I lost my eyebrows, I lost my nostril hair, I lost my hair on my head, my face got round and swollen because of the steroids. And so I was thinking, like, how can I navigate this phase in our dating life when I feel quite self-conscious because I've lost literally all the hair on my body? And so I remember thinking, okay, how can I feel more confident? And then I thought, okay, well, he met me when I had like the hair that I've got now, so long dark hair right down my back, and I like that because that made me feel confident. So then I found a wig that was like my old hair, and I knew for him it wouldn't be a shock where he just sees me like bald with no hair, because that's just bloody shock to me, so I can't imagine what it's like to the other person. So I then put a wig on, and it looked like my normal hair. It made me feel like my normal self. I then drew on my brows, I put some eyeliner on, and then dressed how I would normally dress. And just like putting like a bit of makeup on and a wig, like that made me feel more me. And I feel like because it was such early days in terms of dating, it wasn't a shock for him to see me with bald head, no lashes, no eyebrows, swollen face, like oversized clothes. Like, who is this girl that I just started dating? Even though I know he actually wouldn't have cared, but that happened. I'll never forget this dating story. And it was one when we were just coming home from a nice date in town, coming back to mine. I was just literally turning the key in my door outside to open the gate, and the wind blew, and it blew my hat off that was holding my wig, and it blew my wig off. And it was in front of Danny. And I was like, oh my God. And I felt like so embarrassed and fluttering and panicking. And I was like, oh my God, he's never seen me with a bald head. Oh my God, like, is he going to think different of me? Oh my God, I don't even like me with a bald head right now. I'm getting used to it. And I remember he just went and quickly picked my wig up, helped me put it on my head. We put my little fedora cap on, and like acted like nothing had happened. And genuinely, like, I'm so glad we didn't talk about it because I was mortified. I was mortified. I did not want him to see me without any hair because I wasn't even comfortable without any hair myself. And I just thought that kind of like absolute like gentleman action of just being like, she's flustered, I'm going to give her wig back, let's put it on, I'm going to pretend like nothing happened, make her feel comfortable, was just everything I needed, because my whole family had seen me without my hair on. But the guy that I was dating, I did not want to look so different to how I was when he first met me, because it was such early days. And so those small actions is kind of what kept me just like falling more in love with him, to be honest, and having so much respect and appreciation, especially because I was 25 and he was 19, and he just took so much on, but just so effortlessly and so graciously. And he was a gentleman throughout it all. Not once did I feel self-conscious, or did he make me feel like that. And I just feel like sometimes when you're not looking for love, it can really, really just hit you in the face when you're not ready. I mean, at no point in my life, you know, in those few months when I was going through diagnosis, blood tests to see if I've got cancer, not cancer, did I ever imagine meeting my like 6-year boyfriend currently to this date. And it just happens like that, you know, like he came at such a weird time, but he was everything I needed and more. And it's just one of those beautiful things in life where you're just like, okay, I don't understand why it's happening. And there's so much fear that comes with that, of like fear of losing them. If he just says, you know what, I've got cold feet, can't do it anymore, it's too much for me, I can't see you go through this, I'm like just going through my own life right now. I would have totally understood at any point if he did that, because dating someone with cancer, me being the one that had cancer, is a journey of just twists and turns and everything. And I think, yeah, I just think the fact that he came along at that point in my life to be that rock and wanting to be that rock was everything. One of the biggest things I learned when I was going through cancer and just in this new romantic relationship of only a few months before I was diagnosed with cancer is it's so important when dating during cancer, whether it's a short-term new romantic relationship or whether you've been with someone for a long time and they're going through the cancer journey with you, is to hold space for each other together, but also as individuals. So allowing that other person who's not going through cancer to also live their life, and also for them to allow me to have time alone when I get free downtime from hospital. I think it's so important to communicate that super openly, because I remember I needed a hell of a lot of alone time. Whenever I could grab alone time of just me, myself, my phone, I literally grasped at it, because I was being prodded by doctors, checked by doctors 24/7. I was in and out of hospital. I was surrounded by people all the time, that whenever I got a moment or an opportunity to be alone, I just wanted to be alone to process. And same for the guy that I was dating, who's my now boyfriend. Like, I remember really being conscious of knowing that his life didn't revolve around my health issues. Yes, I was part of his life, but I also really respected that. I wanted him to go out and, he was on tour with his band, so I wanted him to go out and do that, live his own life, see his friends, be with his family. Like, I really respected their space and their time, because I know that when you have the freedom and independence to like live your life and look inwards and focus on yourself, you then have more energy to offer others, versus when you're pouring everything into someone else and you're forgetting yourself. It's just not healthy, because both of your cups are empty then, and you've got no healing time for each other to process. And so I'd say that was a massive, massive thing that really helped the relationship as a new relationship going through chemo, is to allow the other person to live their life, and vice versa, having your own space to carve out your own time for self-care. It's important. As we fill our own cups, we can then fill other people's cups, And that's something that I learned in that moment, which I've now carried into our relationship, Like, we're super respectful of each other's time, each other's own space. We live together now. We have been for a few years, but I think it's so important to know we actually want to spend time with each other a lot of the time, Like, I'm doing my podcast and Danny sat there helping me, but it's one of those moments where I appreciate his time, and he's got to do a podcast later. So then I'll say, do you need any help? If not, that's your own space. Do you want me to make dinner? I always think of like dating and relationships like a dance. Like, you're dancing with each other, but also around each other. And I think it's so beautiful when that happens, because when you're together, you're a unit and you're doing the same dance, but then the other person wants to break off sometimes and do their own dance and express themselves. And I think that's so beautiful, because it allows you freedom to still have your own identity and independence. In terms of any relationship, it's just good to have that freedom to be who you are, but also know that your partner's supporting it and right behind you and next to you. So basically, that's my story in terms of how I met Danny. We've been together 6 years this November, is it? Yeah, we've been together 6 years this November. I feel like when like a tragic accident or a really intense situation happens so early on in a relationship, it's like a real test of life when you go through dating someone when you've just been diagnosed with cancer, because it can be a make or break, quite literally. And, it's either going to be someone that is going to stick by your side on this crazy whirlwind journey, or it's going to be someone that isn't sure what to do but wants to stay next to you and is going to try everything they can do to be supportive, or it's just going to filter through people in your life that just don't have capacity for you. And that's okay. Any of those situations are okay, because at the end of the day, you're going to be surrounded with the people who are there for you through thick and thin, quite literally. I think the biggest misconception is people think that as soon as you finish chemotherapy, you just jump straight back into being your old self. You've got this energy, you're springing out of bed, your hair grows back instantly, your face swelling goes down straight away. And it's just not the case. Like, the amount of medication I was on after cancer was unbelievable. My hair didn't grow back until like 4 or 5 months after. I was constantly still going in for checks. I wasn't even in remission. And so I think in terms of romantic relationships, it's so important to communicate to the person that, even though I finished chemotherapy, I have to take it slow because I'm still healing. And I think for the person who's going through that to know that it's okay to heal. I'm still healing now from it, like I can't drink like I used to, and I don't want to. And so with that can come judgment from other people who knew you when you used to go out and party, So it's navigating those relationships. There has been so many absolute life-changing things that have happened in my life since I finished cancer. It didn't even start during chemotherapy. After cancer, that's when life changed, Like, I lost friends because I suddenly became this like really independent, self-assured, like person who just really knew who I was and who I wanted to be. And that was someone that is confident. That is someone that is loving. That is someone that puts 10 out of 10% into relationships. Like, that is someone that wants to invest all their time into someone and get it back. And so there's been situations in my life where I haven't got it back. And I've realized actually I was living life on other people's terms. And that's not how I want to live anymore. I want a relationship to be a two-way street with open communication. I want to talk about things with people like that actually means something, you know? I realize that I'm not really a small talk person. I want to talk about things that matter. And I think you'll only understand that if you've really been through cancer or a life-altering moment where every conversation you have, you want to grow with someone and you want to build that relationship on like a really deep level. Like that's where I'm coming at with relationships. And that doesn't work for everyone. Not everyone wants to be as open. Not everyone wants to put time in. And so I think that shift in losing some people and just gaining other people, or you know, just really focusing on like a very few amount of relationships is so healthy. And that's the same with my romantic relationship. Like we challenge each other in such a beautiful way of like, how do you want to grow? Where do you see yourself going? How can I help you get there? How can you help me get there? You know, like I just really value really strong, deep, connected relationships because that's the point, right? And so that's the massive thing that I found out about relationships, and that's how cancer shifted how I approach relationships, not just romantic, but friends and family. And so all of that to basically say, like, that's how I met my current boyfriend. And so these are the sort of tips that I was learning along the way in terms of how to communicate, how to navigate dating, how to hold space for each other. These are the sort of things that I learned on the fly. And I wish someone had like told me these tips as well, because I feel like it would give you a good little kickstart if you are dating someone and you've just been diagnosed with cancer, or a good little kickstart in terms of how to navigate that new normal dating life. I found it out on the fly. I had some ups and downs, you know, but that's how you navigate it. I'm so grateful to the universe for introducing Danny to me at the most unexpected time in my life. And so I'd finish by saying those are my tips for how to like navigate a relationship romantically going through cancer, new or long term. But most importantly, and please promise me you guys will do this, is put yourself first. Give yourself so much self-love, because when you are in a place where you love yourself, whether or not you're looking, love will find you. And it can be in a relationship of a new friendship. It can be in a relationship of a new boyfriend coming your way to sweep you off your feet when you least expect it. Always start with loving yourself first, because that is the most important thing. Give yourself the love first. You need it more than ever. Your appearance will change. Your physicality will change. Your mental stability will change. So really focus on like doing things that make you feel so loved yourself. You know, whether that's like looking through old photos or journaling, like I say a lot, whether it's meditation of like self-love, whether it's saying to yourself in the mirror every single day, like an affirmation that is positive and empowering, or just gentle, like I'm going to be so kind and gentle to myself today because I love who I am. Even if you repeat that every single day throughout your whole treatment, that is just showing your body you love it, your mind you love yourself, and it's just reaffirming that you've got yourself. I would love to hear your stories about how you and your partner, or maybe your new relationship, have navigated life with cancer. And you guys can tell me by leaving me a comment in the Spotify podcast episode. And I read all the comments, guys. So if you leave me a comment, I will read it and I will respond. As always, guys, I would be so grateful if you could rate this podcast, leave your comments letting me know how you found them. And I would love it if you guys could subscribe and follow the podcast. Don't forget, we have an Instagram, which is at @FTheNoise_, and we are also on YouTube at @FTheNoise Cancer Community. I can't wait to see you guys on there, and I can't wait for the next episode. Thank you so much if you have listened and watched this far, and I can't wait until I see you guys in the next podcast. Much love.